Have you ever felt like you're always saying yes, even when every part of you is silently screaming no? You nod, you smile, you agree, even when the request slices through your last bit of energy, even when the timing is wrong, even when it breaks something in you to do it. And no one notices, no one asks, is this okay for you? Because they've learned something. You never say no. And maybe that started as a way to be kind, to be loved, to avoid conflict. But now it feels like a slow kind of death. Each yes that isn't true is a cut, small, quiet, but precise. You feel it in your stomach, your throat, your back, a tension that never leaves, a fatigue that sleep can't fix, not because you're weak, but because you are constantly giving pieces of yourself away to people who think your silence is agreement. You say yes, not out of love, but out of fear, fear of being rejected, fear of being labeled cold, fear that if you finally say no, they will stop loving you. So you play the role. You become agreeable, polite, convenient. You learn how to shrink, how to twist your truth until it's small enough to swallow, how to disappear while still being present. And the most twisted part, they praise you for it. You're so strong. You're always there. You never ask for anything. You're the best. No, you're just the easiest to use. Because the truth is, the more you give, the more they take. The more you stay silent, the louder they become. The more you try to hold everything together, the more they let you. You become a playground for other people's pain, a therapist, a dumping ground, a soft place to land for those who never once asked how hard it is for you to carry it all. Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And here's the thing, if you can't accept your own limits, if you can't honor your no, you haven't accepted yourself at all. Because saying no isn't just a boundary, it's a declaration. It's how you reclaim your time, your space, your soul. Most people don't realize how much of their suffering comes from one devastating truth. They have made themselves completely available to the world and utterly unavailable to themselves. You think you're being helpful, generous, compassionate, but deep down, you're betraying yourself again and again. Each false yes chips away at your integrity. And when you do that long enough, you forget what your real truth even feels like. You start laughing when you want to cry. You smile when you're hurting. You agree when your entire body wants to walk away. And the worst part, you start to believe this is just who you are, that this exhausted, stretched thin, emotionally starved version of you is your natural state, that this is what love requires, that this is adulthood. But it's not. It's survival. It's performance. It's what happens when you wear the same mask for so long you forget your real face. Jung called that mask the persona, the role we play to fit in, to be accepted, to be loved in ways we never truly were. But if your persona is built on self-erasure, then your acceptance isn't real. It's conditional, it's rented, and every yes is the cost of keeping it. So ask yourself, how many times have you stayed quiet, just to avoid disappointing someone who never even considered your needs? How much of your life have you handed over to people who never earned your trust? How many fake smiles have you worn to avoid starting a war, only to discover you've started one inside yourself? There comes a moment, if you're lucky, when the weight of every forced yes starts to break your back, when the resentment becomes louder than your guilt, when the pain of silence becomes louder than the fear of being heard. And when that moment comes, it won't feel beautiful. It will feel like hell, like betrayal, like collapse. But that collapse, that's the beginning. That's your true self waking up, after years of being sedated by approval, because your life will not change until your no becomes louder than your fear of losing people who only stayed because you were convenient to use. Have you ever wondered why the same kind of person keeps showing up in your life? Different name, different face, same outcome. They start off warm, charming, grateful. They say things like, "I've never met anyone like you. You're so understanding. You just get me." And for a while you believe them, because deep down you want to believe that this time it's different. But then it starts again. They begin to ask too much. They cross small lines and laugh it off. They dump their pain on your shoulders and call it connection. And you, because you've been trained to carry, you don't walk away. You tighten your grip. You tell yourself you can help. That love means staying, that maybe if you give just a little more, they'll finally see your worth. But they don't. They never do. and you're left asking the same question. Why does this keep happening to me? Carl Jung had an answer. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What you think is just bad luck is often a reflection of a deeper truth you haven't faced yet. Because here's the hard truth. The people you attract are often mirrors of what you believe you deserve. They're not just taking advantage of you. They're responding to the message you've been unconsciously sending your whole life. I don't matter as much as you. My needs can wait. I'll stay even if it hurts. And once you send that message, the wrong people will show up like moths to a flame. You see, users don't always come in obvious forms. They're not cartoon villains. They're often wounded children in grown-up bodies, people who never learned how to hold their own pain, and so they hand it to you. You become the container, the fixer, the forgiver, and they become addicted to what you give, not because they're evil, but because they never had to stop, because you never said no. But it goes deeper. This isn't just about them, it's about you, and the parts of you you've abandoned. The little voice that whispers, I'm tired, I'm angry, I want more. The parts of you that were taught early on to be small, to be good, to earn love through obedience. That voice, that's your shadow. Jung called the shadow the part of ourselves we reject, the anger we suppress, the boundaries we ignore, the resentment we deny. And here's the paradox. The more you ignore your shadow, the more power it has over your life. Because when you refuse to own your right to say no, you unconsciously invite those who will take advantage of your silence. You repeat the pattern, not because you're broken, but because some part of you still believes that love has to hurt, that to be chosen you must bleed. So you don't leave when they disrespect you. You explain it away. You give second chances. You say they're just going through something, while you go through hell. But listen to me closely. Not everyone who is hurting has the right to hurt you. Not everyone who needs love deserves yours. Not every sad story is your responsibility to fix. Because love without boundaries is not love. It's martyrdom. It's codependency. It's slow-motion self-abandonment. You've been carrying people your whole life, but who's been carrying you? You've turned your heart into a shelter, but where do you go to feel safe? There is no award for destroying yourself to keep someone else comfortable. There is no prize for being the most loyal to those who harm you. This ends the moment you decide, I will no longer sacrifice myself on the altar of someone else's wounds. It ends when you stop believing that your silence is proof of strength, because it's not strength if it costs you your soul. That's where power begins. You've probably felt it, that cold wave rising in your chest the moment you try to say no. Your throat tightens, your hands shake, your heart races, not from danger, but from the idea of disappointing someone. Isn't it strange how saying yes even when it breaks you feels safer than setting yourself free? That's not logic, that's trauma. That's the residue of a life spent walking on eggshells, of being taught that love must be earned, of learning that your needs come last, if they even matter at all. You weren't born afraid of saying no. You were trained. Somewhere along the line someone taught you that your worth is tied to your usefulness, that being liked matters more than being whole, that your voice is dangerous, and silence is survival. Maybe it was a parent who only showed affection when you obeyed. Maybe it was a teacher who punished your curiosity. Maybe it was a partner who called your boundaries selfish. But whoever it was, they planted a seed, a belief that still grows inside you. If I say no, I'll lose love. Carl Jung once wrote, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And for many of us, saying no is that absurd thing we avoid. Because the moment you say no, something old starts to die. The persona, the mask, the false self you've curated to be accepted. And letting that mask fall, it's terrifying. Because without it, who are you? You're left standing naked in the truth of your own needs. You're forced to face the guilt, the shame, the fear of being too much or not enough. But let me tell you something few will dare to say. That fear you feel when you finally say no, that's not weakness. That's a portal. It's the gateway between who you've been and who you're becoming. You've lived your life like a house with all the doors open. Anyone could walk in, settle in your heart, leave muddy footprints on your soul, and you kept letting it happen, because closing the door felt mean, But boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks. You can open them with love, but only when you choose. And here's the truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should be allowed to touch the most sacred parts of your being. But when you've lived your whole life trying to be nice, you confuse access with affection. You confuse approval with safety. And when you finally say no, people will react. Some will get angry. Some will try to guilt you. Some will leave. Let them. Because the people who only stayed because you said yes were never really with you at all. They were with the version of you who bled silently to keep them comfortable. And if that's what it takes to be loved, then what you had wasn't love. It was emotional blackmail dressed up as connection. So feel the fear, let it rise, let it burn, then stand anyway. Speak the word you've been taught to fear, no. Say it without apology. Say it without a long explanation. Say it even when your voice shakes. Because that trembling voice, that's your soul finally waking up. You're not here to be someone's emotional crutch. You're not here to be everything for everyone. You're not here to die a slow, quiet death for the sake of harmony. You're here to live, to speak, to move through the world with clarity, power, and peace. But peace doesn't come from being agreeable. It comes from being honest. It comes from walking away when your spirit is being crushed. It comes from daring to disappoint others to be loyal to yourself. And yes, you will disappoint people, but that's not a tragedy. It's proof you're no longer betraying yourself to be liked. Because saying no is not rejection, it's redirection back to yourself. It's a sacred act, a ritual of rebirth. The first real moment when you look in the mirror and see someone who no longer needs permission to protect their soul. So you've said no, and now there's silence. Maybe some people left. Maybe the guilt stayed longer than you expected. Maybe you stood there wondering if you did the right thing. You did, because for the first time your body feels clean, not light, not yet, but clear, like the noise has finally stopped, like something heavy has fallen off your chest and landed where it belongs, outside of you. But here's the part no one talks about. After you say no, a strange grief sets in, not just grief for the people you lose, but grief for the person you were, the one who kept bending, kept pleasing, kept shrinking. You'll mourn her, even though she hurt. She kept you safe. She helped you survive. She learned how to be likable in a world that doesn't always love truth. But you are not here to survive anymore. You are here to live. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that privilege comes with a price. You must burn everything you built to please others. The fake smiles, the swallowed pain, the convenient yes. And in the ashes of that life, something real begins to grow. You start to realize that saying no wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Because now your yes means something. It's no longer a reflex, it's a choice. You say yes because you want to, not because you're scared not to. You give from fullness, not from fear. You choose what you tolerate and what you walk away from. This is power, not the loud kind, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that resides quietly inside you, rooted, unshakable. You don't owe explanations. You don't need to over-apologize. You don't have to prove your kindness by destroying your peace. Boundaries don't make you harsh. They make you whole. The people who truly love you will stay. They might be shocked at first. They might have to adjust to the new version of you, the one with a spine. But the right ones, they won't leave because you have limits. They'll stay because you finally have a self. And those who go, let them. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your next chapter. Not everyone can survive your truth. That's not your failure. That's your freedom. You are not here to be palatable. You are not here to be digestible. You are not here to be half loved for being half alive. You are here to be whole. And wholeness isn't soft. It's honest. It's fierce. It's messy and sacred and sharp-edged when it needs to be. Because peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of truth. So what now? Now, you rebuild. Now, you listen to the quiet voice inside, the one you've silenced for years, the one that says this is enough, this isn't okay, this feels right, this feels wrong, this is who I am. You begin again, but this time, with yourself in the center. You start to make space for joy that isn't earned through suffering, for love that doesn't demand your silence, for rest that doesn't require guilt, for a life that doesn't need to be explained. And you'll notice something strange. The world begins to shift, not because it's changed, but because you have. You see through the charm. You hear the manipulation. You feel when someone's presence costs too much, and you say no. Not with cruelty, not with arrogance, but with calm, grounded certainty, because your soul no longer negotiates with disrespect. This is what Jung meant, not some abstract theory, not a nice quote for a coffee mug, but the raw, painful, beautiful journey of becoming a person who finally belongs to themselves. And now I ask you, what was the moment you betrayed yourself the most? And what would it mean, starting today, to never do that again? Write it down, speak it out loud, make it real, because from this day forward, your yes is sacred, and your no, that's your resurrection.